Ma'am, wait outside. The words landed like a slap. Sharp, cold, final. The luxury car dealership pulsed with confidence. Polished marble floors reflecting chandelier light. Engines gleaming like trophies. Salespeople laughing loudly near the espresso machine as fresh coffee hissed into porcelain cups. This was a place built on money and image, where suits spoke louder than words, where worth was measured by watches, handbags, and shoes. And then she walked in, a black woman in her early 40s. No designer coat, no diamond earrings, no loud confidence trying to prove anything. Just a simple wool jacket, calm, steady eyes, and a small notebook tucked under her arm. She paused near the entrance, taking it all in. The rows of luxury vehicles, the glossy posters promising power and prestige. For a moment, she looked almost invisible. Almost. A sales associate glanced at her, then quickly looked away. Another leaned toward his coworker and whispered something, eyes flicking in her direction. They smirked. The laughter near the coffee machine softened, then stopped. The manager noticed her next. He scanned her from head to toe, his expression tightening as if she were something out of place, something inconvenient. He walked over with practiced authority, arms crossed, voice already decided. "This area is for customers only," he said flatly. "If you're waiting for someone, you'll need to wait outside." The showroom went quiet. Even the espresso machine hissed to a stop. She looked at him, surprised, but not offended. Her voice was calm, steady. "I'm a customer," she said. The manager laughed. Not kindly, not nervously, but dismissively. "Ma'am," he said, shaking his head, "please don't make this difficult." A few salespeople watched, arms folded. Others pretended not to notice. No one stepped in. No one questioned him. For a brief moment, the woman hesitated. Then she smiled. A small, polite smile. She nodded once, turned around, and walked toward the glass doors. Her reflection passed across the polished cars, distorted, fleeting, ignored. The doors slid shut behind her. Inside, the room exhaled. Someone chuckled. Someone muttered, "Unbelievable." The manager straightened his tie and walked away like nothing had happened. Outside, the woman stood silently beneath the dealership's massive logo. She looked at her watch. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. None of them knew that in exactly 5 minutes, everything inside that showroom, every laugh, every paycheck, every sense of power was about to change. Because the woman they had just told to wait outside was the one who owned the building. Her name was Danielle Carter. What no one inside that showroom knew, what no one even bothered to ask, was this. She wasn't just a customer. She wasn't just browsing. She wasn't confused. She wasn't lost. She owned the entire dealership. Every car on that polished floor. Every desk. Every paycheck. Every commission check that paid their rent. Danielle Carter was the CEO of Carter Automotive Group, one of the fastest-growing dealership chains in the state. A black woman who had turned a single family-owned business into a multi-million-dollar empire. The company hadn't started with luxury. It started decades earlier when her father, an immigrant with more determination than money, opened a tiny used car lot with 3 vehicles and a handwritten sign. He taught Danielle everything. How to read people, how to negotiate with integrity, how respect mattered more than profit. When he passed away, many doubted her. She's too quiet. She's too soft. She doesn't look like a CEO. They were wrong. Danielle expanded the company location by location. She modernized systems, improved customer experience, and built a brand rooted in trust. Under her leadership, profits tripled. But recently, something fell off. Customer complaints had started trickling in. Not enough to make headlines, but enough to raise concern. Reviews that mentioned words like cold, dismissive, uncomfortable. And then there were the emails. Long, carefully written messages from customers who said they felt judged the moment they walked in. That they weren't greeted. That questions were ignored. That assumptions were made before a single word was spoken. Many of those emails had one thing in common. They came from minority customers. At first, Danielle hoped it was isolated. A bad day, a single employee, a misunderstanding. But the pattern didn't stop. And patterns don't lie. So that morning, Danielle made a decision most executives never would. She canceled her meetings, left her assistant behind, drove herself. No announcement, no warning, no titles. She didn't wear a power suit, didn't carry a luxury handbag, didn't introduce herself as CEO. She came as herself because she didn't want special treatment. She wanted the truth. And the truth revealed itself within 2 minutes of walking through those glass doors. No greeting, no smile, no "how can I help you?" Just looks. The kind that scan, the kind that judge, the kind that decide your worth before you speak. When she was told to wait outside, Danielle wasn't shocked. She had lived long enough to recognize that tone. But what hurt wasn't the words. It was the silence afterward. No one corrected the manager. No one asked a question. No one stepped in. They agreed without saying it. Outside, Danielle stood still, the dealership's massive logo looming above her. The same logo she had approved. The same brand she had worked years to protect. She felt disappointment, but not surprise. Because now she understood. The complaints weren't exaggerations. The reviews weren't misunderstandings. The problem wasn't hidden. It was standing confidently inside her own building. Danielle looked at her watch. 5 minutes. That's how long she gave herself to feel it, to process the disrespect, the irony, the quiet ache of knowing that success still didn't shield her from judgment. Then she took out her phone. One call. Her voice was calm. Conference room. All staff. Immediately. Inside, phones began vibrating. Confusion spread across faces. The same manager who dismissed her frowned at his screen, annoyed. "What now?" someone muttered. Danielle walked back inside, past the same doors that had been closed on her moments earlier. This time, no one stopped her. They gathered in the conference room, whispering, guessing. Some checked their watches. Others leaned back, arms crossed, confident nothing serious was happening. Danielle stood at the front of the room. She waited until the last voice fell silent. Then she spoke. "My name is Danielle Carter." A few heads lifted. "I'm the CEO of Carter Automotive Group." The room froze. Color drained from faces. Eyes widened. Breaths caught. The manager's confidence collapsed in real time. Danielle didn't smile. "I came here today because I wanted to understand why customers feel unwelcome in my own business," she said. "I didn't come as a CEO. I came as a customer." She paused, and I was told to wait outside. Silence. "So if this is how you treat someone you think has no power," she continued, "I can only imagine how many others walked away without saying a word." She opened a folder. Complaints. Reviews. Documented behavior. "This wasn't a mistake," she said firmly. "It was a culture, and that culture was about to change." Outside, Danielle stood calmly near the glass doors. Traffic hummed in the distance. Sunlight reflected off the dealership's massive windows, turning the glass into a mirror. For a moment, she saw her own reflection staring back, composed, quiet, unshaken. Inside, the manager leaned against a desk, smirking. "Some people just don't belong here," he said, shaking his head. A few staff members laughed. One rolled his eyes. Another took a sip of coffee like the moment was already forgotten. Danielle heard none of it. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. Her hand didn't shake. She made one call. "Conference room," she said calmly. "Now." That was it. No anger. No explanation. No raised voice. Inside the showroom, phones began vibrating almost at once. Sales associates glanced down at their screens, confused. Brows furrowed. Smirks faded. A few exchanged looks, silently asking the same question. "What's going on?" The manager checked his phone last. His face tightened. "Who called this?" he muttered. Before anyone could answer, the glass doors slid open. Danielle walked back inside. The same woman they had dismissed moments earlier now moved with quiet authority. She didn't rush. She didn't hesitate. Her footsteps echoed softly against the marble floor as she passed rows of luxury vehicles. The manager noticed her and hurried forward, panic creeping into his voice. "Ma'am, wait," he said quickly. "There's been a misunderstanding." She didn't stop. She didn't even look at him. "No," she said softly, walking past. "There hasn't." The room fell silent. Employees were pulled off the floor one by one. Customers watched from a distance, whispering among themselves. Something was happening. Something serious. No one laughed now. The staff gathered in the conference room, standing shoulder to shoulder. Some crossed their arms. Others avoided eye contact. The manager stood near the back, suddenly unsure of his place. Danielle stepped to the front. She removed her coat slowly and draped it over a chair. The gesture was simple, but it changed everything. She placed her notebook on the table. Then she spoke. "My name is Danielle Carter." A few heads lifted. "And I am the CEO of this company." The words landed heavy. The room froze. Eyes widened. Breaths caught. Color drained from faces. The manager's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Danielle looked around the room, meeting eyes one by one. She didn't glare. She didn't threaten. Her calm was more unsettling than anger ever could be. "I came here today without announcing myself," she continued. "No title, no assistant, no special treatment." She paused. "I wanted to experience what our customers experience." No one spoke. "And within minutes," she said evenly, "I was told to wait outside." A murmur rippled through the room. The manager swallowed hard. Danielle turned toward him. "Would you like to explain why?" she asked. He stammered. I didn't know who you were." She nodded. "That's exactly the problem." She turned back to the group. "You didn't know who I was," she repeated. "So you decided who I was." Silence. "Over the past few months," Danielle continued, "this location has received multiple complaints. Words like dismissive, unwelcoming, biased." She opened her notebook. "These aren't rumors. These are documented patterns." She looked directly at the staff. "And what happened today confirmed every one of them." No one argued, because they couldn't. Danielle's voice softened, but her words cut deeper. "This business was built on respect," she said. "Not assumptions, not appearances." She closed the notebook. "And respect starts with leadership." All eyes turned to the manager. He looked smaller now. The confidence that once filled his voice was gone. Danielle took a breath. "Effective immediately," she said. "This location will undergo restructuring." She paused. "Several of you will no longer be part of this company." Gasps filled the room. The manager's knees buckled slightly. Danielle met his eyes one last time. "You don't lose your job today because you didn't recognize me," she said. "You lose it because you showed me exactly who you are when you thought no one important was watching." Security stepped forward. Keys were collected. Badges removed. One by one, those responsible were escorted out, past the same doors Danielle had been told to wait behind. The room stayed silent. Danielle turned back to those who remained. "This is not punishment," she said. "It's accountability." She straightened her coat. "And this dealership will be better because of it." Outside, customers began to clap. Inside, something had shifted. Because that day, everyone learned the same lesson. Power doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it waits quietly at the door. Danielle didn't raise her voice. She didn't insult anyone. She didn't point fingers in anger. She simply told the truth. "I was asked to wait outside," she said evenly. "I was dismissed without a single question. I was judged before I ever spoke." The room was silent. No shuffling, no coughing, no whispers. She paused, letting the words settle. "And if you treated me this way," she continued, her voice steady but heavy, "how do you treat everyone else who walks through these doors?" No one answered, not because they didn't hear her, but because they had no defense. Danielle slowly turned toward the manager. "You lead this location," she said, "which means this culture starts with you." The man shifted uncomfortably, sweat forming at his hairline. Danielle reached down and opened a thick folder. Inside were months of evidence. Printed emails, written complaints, transcripts of phone calls, screenshots of online reviews. She placed them on the table one by one. "These aren't isolated incidents," she said calmly. "These are patterns." She lifted a page. A customer ignored for 20 minutes. Another. A family asked if they could afford to be here. Another. A customer told they should try a different dealership. Each page landed with a quiet thud. The weight of them filled the room. She turned the folder toward the staff. "Security footage confirms it," she continued. "Recorded conversations confirm it. Statements confirm it." She closed the folder. "This wasn't a bad day," she said. "It was a habit." Danielle looked around the room. Her eyes didn't accuse. They searched. Anyone who laughed, she said. Anyone who agreed. Anyone who stayed silent. Her voice didn't shake. One by one, names were called. The first name echoed across the room. A senior salesperson stepped forward, stunned. The second name followed. Then another. Managers, team leaders, sales staff who had been reported repeatedly. Each person stood frozen as their name left Danielle's lips. "You're terminated," she said clearly. "Effective immediately." Gasps broke the silence. One man protested weakly. Another shook his head in disbelief. The manager's face had gone pale. Keys were placed on the table. Badges slid across the surface. Security stepped in quietly, professionally. One by one, they were escorted out, past the glass doors, past the cars they once sold, past the customers who watched with wide eyes. No one laughed now. No one spoke. The same doors Danielle had been told to wait behind opened again, this time for those being asked to leave. Inside, the remaining employees stood still, unsure whether to breathe. Danielle addressed them next. "This is not revenge," she said. "And it's not personal." She paused. "It's responsibility." She looked at the floor briefly, then back up. "This company was built on respect," she continued. "And respect is not selective." She straightened. "Every customer deserves dignity, whether they were designer clothes or not, whether they look powerful or not, whether you think they belong here or not." She let that sink in. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a single clap echoed from the showroom floor. Everyone turned. A customer near the entrance had begun applauding. Then another joined. Then another. Soon, the sound grew louder. Applause filled the showroom, slow at first, then rising, rolling across the room like a wave. Some employees lowered their heads. Others blinked back emotion. Danielle didn't smile. She simply nodded once. Because the applause wasn't for power. It was for fairness. It was for accountability. And it was for the reminder that no matter who you think someone is, you should treat them like they matter. That day didn't just change a dealership. It sent a message that echoed far beyond glass doors and luxury cars. A message that traveled through boardrooms, break rooms, and comment sections online. Respect is not optional. Power doesn't always arrive with flashing lights, designer suits, or loud introductions. Sometimes it walks in quietly, observes silently, and speaks only when it must. Judging people by appearance isn't just careless. It's dangerous. Danielle didn't fire anyone out of anger. There was no satisfaction in it. No celebration. What she felt wasn't victory. It was responsibility. Because leadership isn't about protecting comfort. It's about protecting values. In the days that followed, Danielle didn't disappear. She stayed involved. She listened. She rebuilt. Mandatory bias training was implemented across every location, not as a checkbox, but as a conversation. Anonymous reporting systems were introduced so voices could be heard without fear. Leadership policies were rewritten to make accountability unavoidable. But systems weren't the most important change. People were. Employees began greeting every customer differently. Conversations slowed down. Assumptions faded. Questions were asked instead of conclusions drawn. And customers noticed. Reviews shifted. Emails came in, not with complaints, but with gratitude. People felt seen, respected, welcome. But the real impact wasn't corporate. It was human. Danielle reminded everyone watching, employees, customers, viewers, that you never truly know who someone is. You don't know the sacrifices they've made to walk through that door. You don't know the battles they've survived to stand where they stand. You don't know the strength it took for them to arrive calmly instead of defensively. And you never know when the person you dismiss is the person holding the power. Because power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it listens. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it stands quietly outside, watching how you treat others when you think no one important is watching. And sometimes, the woman you tell to wait outside is the woman who decides whether you get to stay inside at all. So the next time someone walks into your space, any space, remember this. Treat them with dignity. Treat them with fairness. Treat them like they matter. Not because of who they might be, but because of who you choose to be.